I currently am DMing for a kind of like an adventure league thing. I participate, I volunteer at my local game store, and I help run events. And this weekend we had 13 people show up. Fortunately, I was the only DM that was booked for that day. As this is a new program, it's a brand new shop that just opened a few months ago. And for many people, 13 players would be I guess, a monumental task, a really difficult thing to put up with, to deal with. So, what did I do? Right? What did I do? I had 13 players out of nowhere. I was only expecting maybe 6 to 7, and most of the players were brand new. They have never played before, right? So, what do you do? Well, I mean, first off, I was prepping a fifth level adventure. Obviously, that had to be thrown out. We did a beginner D&D session. But I think a lot of people get hung up on the rules, right? And the rules of the game. But when you're dealing with that many people, it's more about keeping the narrative going and making sure people have the ability to contribute, right? So what did I do? I got rid of initiative, which is a big part of the game, right? Initiative. I just did group initiative, and I just had people go around the table, and I had different people start the initiative so that different people had the first action, right? And what did that do? Well, instead of having to be like, "Hey, it's your turn. I have to keep track of all these people." It's now just no, like if the guy to your right is talking, you know you're going to be talking next. I don't have to try and get people's attention multiple times to be like, "Hey, you're up, you're on deck." None of that. They just know they're on the half table. I don't need to really worry about it right now. We're good. Luckily, it was first level. We simplified a lot of the rules, simplified some of the encounters. And I had to, like I said, I wasn't prepped at all for to run of that campaign whatsoever. But you can very quickly kind of strip down the game to its essence and just try and develop fun encounters. So our game time was from 2 to 6 We get a little wiggle room there. Obviously, it took a little while to get people with characters and everything. So that was the first approximately 30 minutes. But I was able to, right at 6:01, finish the last encounter I had planned. I was able to make on the fly. We had roughly 9 encounters, which on the fly for that large of a group, getting through 9 encounters is really good and really impressive. And some tricks that maybe for new players or new DMs that don't really understand, like, hey, how would I even improv multiple encounters? A good rule of thumb is just the CR system is made so that whatever the CR level is, a group of 4 could beat it at that level. What do I mean by that? So if it's 4 players, they are level 1. A CR level 1 creature is meant for them to fight. You have 8 players, right? You might want 2 of them or a CR 2 creature. Okay? So when you have 13 players, you kind of need to have some things that are easy to beat up and some big guys. So I was throwing CR, I think 3 or 4 at them. I was just reducing the damage, maxing the hit points, or increasing. If it was a really high CR, I was leaving the hit points the same. Reducing the damage. Okay, well, how do I reduce the damage? How would I know if it's a fair amount of damage or not? Great rule of thumb, most classes have a D8 or better. So if whatever level they are, multiply that number by 8, and if you can do that much damage, if you max damage, not crit, but if you get like a max damage roll, and that would kill one of them, that's a bit much. Maybe reduce 1 die, right? If it's rolling 3d6, we go down to 2d6. And try to make it where not a single hit, a single non-critical hit can kill your players, because getting one shot isn't fun for anybody, right? It's not fun to get hit once and go down. It's not good for gameplay. You don't have any way to react to it. Your other party members don't get to, see, okay, this guy hits really hard. I need to change my tactics. you don't get the chance to, if you have a healing ability, to heal yourself, or you might not even get to do anything. You might just instantly just get hit, get down, and then you're sitting through an encounter doing nothing. That's not fun. That's not fun for anybody, especially for a beginner D&D kind of setting. Our goal wasn't to kill the players. We want hopefully them to enjoy their experience enough to come back, right? Some other just quick tips is don't worry about the minutia of it, right? You kind of just need to keep the turns going as quickly as possible. So just ask the players what they want to do, and you know, just tell them what they need to roll. You know what I mean? Like it's really that easy. Don't stress about it. If someone's going to just tell them to roll d20, most of the time the straight roll is going to be enough. Very rarely the modifiers are even going to come into play, especially with a lower level campaign. Most things have like an AC of like 13. Very often, your players are going to have a +3 in their max stat or their best stat, the primary stat they're going to be using. Therefore, you can just assume if they roll a 10 or better, they're going to pass. Just keep it easy, keep it quick. Unless they roll like a 6 or a 7, don't even bother doing the math. If it's a 10 or above, just let them go. Another great thing for that is like gelatinous cubes or any like large slimes, because their AC is like 5, right? If they roll a dice, as long as they don't get a natural 1, they hit. That's another great easy encounter. I like to throw gelatinous cubes at them early on, because a gelatinous cube doesn't necessarily need to be a fight, right? It's just a giant slime that's kind of blocking away, and they can try to navigate around it. They can try to lure it away, or if they want to, they can beat up the slime. Again, gelatinous cubes hit like a truck, so just reduce the damage. And if they get pulled into the slime, make it a little more interesting. So reduce the damage, but make it where they have to make a save or they get pulled in. Give the player, the other players around, to try and get the player out of the cube before they start taking that acid damage. Don't make it immediate. Well, little things like that to encourage collaboration and different kind of play styles and ways of thinking. You don't need to use the stat blocks as like a guarantee, like they're set in stone. Feel free to experiment. Feel free to do what you want. Feel free to adapt things, think on the fly, improvise. That's the only way you're going to be able to, you know, make things quickly. And I know there's a school of thought of trying to get everything prepared ahead of time. And the problem is no plan survives first contact with the enemy, right? You could spend hours, days, weeks preparing for this huge, big adventure. And if you enjoy that style, good for you. That's not me. I prefer a very improvisational tone, very improvisational style of play. And I think it's better because it allows the players to be a little more creative. They can change things on the fly, they can experiment, and they know that I'm more than happy to accommodate that. Because nothing's really set in stone, to them it seems like I'm just a wizard and I just had everything planned ahead of time. Anything they ever did was intentional, but it's all just yes and. They want to do something, okay, we'll just pick a DC. Good rule of thumb, 10's easy, right? 10 something easy. 15 is a normal check, or 15 is a bit harder, right? So if it's something you really think is middle of the road, maybe like 13, depending on the level. As the levels scale, change things. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to take some time at the beginning of the stream to share some D&D stuff. I had a rather difficult experience recently with D&D, with the 13 players showing up. Obviously, I had no time to prep. I wasn't expecting it. Over half the players had never played D&D before. I went over kind of what I did to make players or to make characters. I just had them use D&D Beyond because I had so many people that need character sheets rapidly. There was no way I could have done pen and paper and explain all the classes. I just kind of was like, what do you like to do? Do you want to punch people or not? Then I just had them play either like a cleric, or if they wanted to like be casty, gave them a cleric. If they wanted to have a bow, I gave them a rogue. If they wanted to fight people, I gave them a fighter. It was just that simple. I I didn't bother with the other ones. Um, the other classes are good, I know, but having clerics is really helpful. Having fighters are just good all around melee people. Bow people, okay, a great source of damage. Rogues, it's simple, sync attack simple enough. You just say shoot the guys that your friends are next to, and you'll get sync attack damage. And you just don't even worry talking about advantage and all that crap or stealth. Just they don't need it. Just shoot the guys next to your friends. Boom, done. Get them going. Get them in the game. Make up some pull up some stat blocks. Just use a website or something. Sort by CR for a level 1. You probably want to shoot from half CR or a quarter CR. If you want to throw some minions out, you should throw some kind of minions for the other players to kill. They're doing just single large entities. It's a little bit more engaging, a little bit more fun, because then they can like divide and conquer and kind of that kind of stuff. And different players might have different styles of how to deal with the encounter. So one group might try and stop the dogs from biting you and rescuing the dogs. And that's what happened. I had my final encounter. I had 4 wargs, just giant monstrous doggies, and a giant beetle demon or devil. And one of the players rolled incredibly well on animal handling multiple times in a row. So I was like, okay, yeah, you unchain the dogs and they calm down. And yeah, I mean the dogs aren't going to fight you guys. The other side burn the dogs with a bunch of fire spells. It is what it is. You know, I'm gonna let the player that wanted to be more peaceful towards the animals get their win, and the people that wanted just to blast the giant monstrous dogs got their win too, because I had 4 of them. Multiple playstyles were able to come out, and the encounter was made easier by both of their efforts simultaneously. So just something to keep in mind.